offense means a healthy Philadelphia Eagles team. And I think that that bothered some people. As a matter of fact, I don't think it. I know it. He needed to turn around and take the time to make sure he was right before the offense was right and before the team was right.
Let me ask you, we're speaking with Joe SANTOLIQUITO. Philly Voice has got the bombshell story today regarding Carson Wentz and some of the reaction from his teammates regarding the way things went down this year. Joe, you say at the podium on Monday you didn't want to tip your hand that you had this. Have you reached out to Carson and tried to get his side of this on the side, separate from the podium?
No, and here's the other deal. They don't give you access to Carson Wentz. Here's something that's very interesting. I believe Carson Wentz is entering his 4th season as a Philadelphia Eagle. I don't believe he sat down and done a one-on-one with anybody from the Philadelphia media. And certainly in the future, it's not going to be me. But but he has not done a one-on-one with anyone from the Philadelphia media. And I also find it interesting. He's a very guarded guy, on and off the field. And that kind of translates a little bit into the locker room, where you see someone that's incredibly transparent and false, amazingly transparent and false. And you see the other guy who's, again, we're
a different guy. He's a different guy.
Yeah, let's go back to the story. Different guy. Okay, but let's go back to the story. Universally loved and false. Wentz isn't. But that's not also to say, nor did I say, Wentz is universally disliked. Are there factions in there? Yes. And I spoke to 2 people this morning that have a lot of knowledge that said, yes, there was a Wentz faction and there was a Foles faction, and that there were guys that were pissed off this season as to what went down and how it went down.
Would you say
and
that? Again, Joe, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And the eye test will tell you, again, and it's repeated a number of times in that story, and it's touched upon by what Josina Anderson did during the course of the year.
Right.
A lot of this is not a revelation. It's not. It took me more guts to write it than not to write it. And the other thing, too, is I was playing around with the thought, how about this? How about this coming out as Foles is the quarterback of this team and they're making a playoff run? Think about the bombshell that would have been, and think about the possibility of this tearing that team apart if it came out then. And that was also a big reason why let's see, let's gather, let's see where this all goes, right? And then, like I said, I was not completely 100% going to put my seal and approval on things, nor, and again, I work with a great team at Philly Voice with Matt Mullen, God bless him, because I told Matt he should be canonized after, something would happen, I'd call Matt. Evan Macy, Jimmy Kempski, who I think is the best guy on the beat.
Right.
Going through them, wash and rinse.
We got you. Joe, you mentioned there's a faction. Would you say that the faction is anti-Wentz or just pro-Foles? I mean, I guess what fans are asking that believe that there is an issue is what happens next year. Is this easily repairable?
Yes, it is. And again, it's in the story. It's there at the bottom of the story. They want Wentz to succeed so badly that it hurts. These things are all fixable. It's in the story. It's there at the bottom. That people want Carson Wentz to return back to who Carson Wentz is, and people felt that he deviated not only on the field but a little bit off the field.
Joe, then let me follow off of that. Why did he? What was different from, say, his rookie year or the second year with the great success before the injury? Why did things deviate? Why did things get off track? Was it the fact that you had Frank Reich and John DeFilippo leave, or did Carson get a big head, or was he pressing because of the injury? Why do you think things deviated?
I think it's the combination of, great point, Rob, I think it's a combination of Reich and DeFilippo because they played, Wentz listened to them. Didn't always listen to them, was reluctant, but Wentz listened to them. And that's pretty much across the board what every source told me, that Wentz listened to those two. And when he did, what did we see? We saw, was it 33 touchdown passes his second year?
Yeah.
And an NFL-like season. And then suddenly, what happens? Foles comes in after Wentz gets hurt. You have the offense running, I think, possibly even better. They dropped, 38 on the Vikings. They dropped 41 in the Super Bowl and outduel Tom Brady in the most important game in franchise history. So what happens when, Wentz takes over this offense and runs it the way it's supposed to be run? Just imagine how much more efficient it would have been this season, the 11 games Carson Wentz played.
Mm-hmm. Talking to Joe SANTOLIQUITO. Joe, you mentioned in the piece about offense coordinator Mike Groh being bullied. You said that this is kind of how this story started. you were asking people about Mike Groh and if he was more or less responsible for the lack of success with the offense. What happened? What was the dynamic with Mike Groh and Carson Wentz?
Well, apparently with Carson, there were some things he was able to get away with that apparently he wasn't able to get away with Reich and DiFilippo. And again, what did we see? We saw the results on the field. Guys to a point, and it's not just guys, when this came about, just some other people in and around the NFL that I know, just asking them questions in general about, what are you hearing? What do you see here in front of you? And they all say to a man, Mike Groh's a pretty good football coach. He knows what he's doing. And he was going to walk into the situation very seamlessly, but again, had a deal with Carson Wentz was apparently the X factor. And the proof is what they say in the pudding. When this offense is run the way it's supposed to be run, when Carson Wentz ran it the way he's capable of running it, and trusting it. That's a big deal here. That's a big word here. Not only trusting the offense, but trusting the guys he had around him. And that was not always the case. And again, the eye test. Let me ask you both. What did you guys see this past season? Did you see him work this offense the way he worked it last year?
I saw him press and struggle.
Yeah, I saw a guy who may not have been fully healthy, but start to really press because all his objective was to get back on the field, and things weren't going well, and then one thing leads to another.
Exactly. And again, the one guy he trusted, 86. And this is not to begrudge Zach Ertz of anything. Zach Ertz continues to play. Zach Ertz is going to be Hall of Fame. And the job Doug Peterson did this season in terms of everything he handled, in front and in back, behind the pulled curtains, was amazing. He did a better job, in my opinion, from what I know. He did a far better job this year to get the Eagles in the playoffs than he did last year and then winning the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson's the hell of a coach who has the respect of his team. And hopefully, I think through, behind closed doors, these guys get this right. Everything that's in that story is fixable. I state that it's fixable. Everyone that I spoke to, everyone, in and around that organization, in and around the NFL, no one dislikes Carson Wentz. Do they think he needs some growing up to do? Yeah. Do you think there's times there where he certainly could take a lot of pages from Nick Foles? I don't want to get into any specifics there because I don't want to give up my guys I'm not leaving my guys on the beach. I know who spoke to me, but I can't be specific. But, there are many, many things that he can learn on and off the field in reference to Nick Foles. In general, one of those things is just being transparent.
Joe, what's your reaction to his teammates on Twitter, most notably some defensive players, but also players on the offensive line? What's your reaction to them calling this fake news?
Well, that's fine. They can call it whatever they want to call it. I think a lot of those guys know the truth. And let me ask you this. Do you think they go out on Twitter and say, everything in this story is exactly what Joe wrote? Do you think any of them would say that?
No, but I do believe that with some of the responses, it seems like you can have a portion of the locker room where maybe some guys are saying like, hey, we don't like this, and the offensive line was fine. I didn't feel like the tweets they were saying because they had to say it.
Yeah, this guy, the other thing that was told to me, is Carson Wentz has a lot of power within that franchise. A lot of power within that franchise.
Sure he does.
And we will see where some futures lie and where some things go. But Carson Wentz wields a lot of power. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Joe SANTOLIQUITO, read it on the Philly Voice. And Joe, appreciate it, man.
Hang on, let me ask you, what did you guys both think of it? What did you both think, Rob and John?
My takeaway, Joe, is I think that there can be a lot of little things going on. In other words, I think Carson may have gone off the rails a little bit, but I also think there could be players who aren't happy with their individual production and blame the quarterback. And I think it could be a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I don't think most times things aren't as cut and dry and black and white as we make things out to be. And I think there's a little grain of truth in a lot of things. And that's what I took away from your story.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And John?
Pretty much the same thing, Joe. I don't think you're making stuff up. I'll leave it like that.
That's same thing.
Well, I'll go as far as saying, and Rob knows everything. I mean, Rob knows a lot. I'm the guy that, after it's done, go back again, And out of the number of people that I sent this, that I dealt with in reference to this, a number of them were sent a copy of this before anything was posted, before anything was public. But again, I wanted to make sure I's were dotted, T's were crossed. That actually didn't really happen, and the closure didn't happen until this past week, Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoon of last week.
We got you. Joe, thanks, man. Appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
There he is. Well, there you have it. Stands by his work.
I mean, look, we'll kick this around, I'm sure, the rest of the program, but you always try to go to the source of who wrote this thing, and I thought, we hit him with everything you could hit him with.
888-729-95.